Welcome back to A&E. If you've been watching the past couple of videos, we're working on the 3/4 ton. We did a glow plug, we did the thermostats in the last video, and today we're doing body mount bushings. On the 2008s, a few years earlier than that and later than that, the body mount bushings are made from a type of polyurethane foam that doesn't hold up. It's a poor design. Previous to that, they had the black rubber bushings. And if you watched my video on the Expedition when we did the body lift, you'll see those there. And other than bolts, that corrode and get stuck, the bushings themselves were still in fine shape. They held up really well. This foam stuff, and I'll show you just here in a second. They deteriorate to the point to where they are not there. I mean, they delete themselves entirely from the truck. So your ride quality suffers. You'll get a little rattle because there's nothing there for the bolt, and the metal parts of the body mounts. There's nothing there to hold it tight, so it just rattles, and you get a little bounce from the body coming off the frame, and that's not good for stuff like your radiator that really doesn't like to be, racked. So definitely need to replace those at this point, and I'll put your eyes on them and show you what I'm talking about. So just stay tuned. It's sure to be exciting. Okay, this is the 3/4 ton. It's a crew cab, so we have 4 per side. We have one here in the front. There's one right here. That's 2. There's one right there in this location underneath the truck. That's 3, and then at the end of the cab, right back here, that's number 4. If you have an extended cab or regular cab, you don't have the very one in the back, so you'll only have 3 per side. So this one has 4 per side. These 2 in the front are going to be your most challenging to get the bolts out. The bolts go in from the bottom, and I've already taken these out, but this bolt feeds up from the bottom. And what it attaches to, and this is the problem, is, I'm gonna try to get you in here. All right, so that's the nut that has come loose because, and let me see, let me get a flashlight so you can see better. Okay, you're not going to be able to see very well because it's kind of, well, maybe you can. There's a cage in there, and it's hard to even see, much less get to. It's a caged nut, and if you've never seen one, it's that nut right there, which I was able to get it out of the cage, but there's some ears. It's surrounded by a cage, which is basically 2 ears that fold over and kind of capture or hold that nut. I guess it's a flanged nut, if you want to call it that. The problem is, these things have been in there long enough. They had Loctite from the factory. You try to turn the bolt, and that cage isn't strong enough to hold that nut. So it you know, first thing it does is it rotates and then bends the ears out. So then it's definitely not going to hold it. And there's just, very little to no room to get anything in there. So if it spins, you have a couple of options. You can try to wedge something between, your frame here and the cage to try and make that ear fold back over to hold the nut. You're 99% not going to have luck with that. What I basically did was I drove a screwdriver in there to fold the ears completely back. And this nut is a 22 millimeter. If you don't have a 22 millimeter, a 7/8 works perfect. The challenge is going to be getting the wrench on that nut because those ears are kind of in the way. So you're going to have to get creative. Basically what I did was I had to modify my 7/8 wrench slightly. It didn't start out being bent like this. I bent that so that I could snake that into the hole and grab a hold of the nut. Now the ears were in the way, so I had to get my hammer, and there's not a whole lot of room in here, but I had to beat until I drove the wrench onto the nut. I was successful in doing that, so that's how I held it. I held the nut while I got the bolt from the bottom side with the ratchet. You can access it from the wheel well. I took the inner splash guard out, and I already had this out because we did the glow plug, and I didn't put this back because I had planned on doing these body mount bushings. So you can access it from here, or take your headlight out. And then you can access it, from this side right here. If I had not already had the wheel well out, I wouldn't have taken it out. I would have tackled it all from right here by taking the headlight out, which is, four little bolts. On the driver's side, I didn't have the wheel well out, so I took the headlight out and I went in right here. Now, I did have success on this side. It did spin in the cage nut, it spun. So the cage was sprung. And so I took a punch and drove it in between the cage and this, your sheet metal over here. I drove it in there and wedged it to hold the cage in place. And it spun on me a couple of times, but each time it spun, I stopped, repositioned my punch. I beat it in there as best I could, and then I started again. So I did have luck doing that on this side. I will tell you, before you start any of this, get your torch out, hit all 8 bolt heads, and hold it on there for several minutes on each one. These things have Loctite. They've all been in here for quite a while. These 2 in the front are the worst because, they're basically completely exposed to the elements. So you got nice corrosion from rain, just whatever gets in there, dirt and grime and what have you, but those are going to be your hardest. So concentrate on those first before you do anything else. The second from the front, are going to be right here. And you can access those from this hole if you have the inner splash guard out. They're down in there. I don't know if you can see that, but you can put your finger in there and you can feel it. So if you need to spray, and I definitely would spray some knocker loose, PB blaster or something in there to try to help it. The other two are basically, I don't want to say climate controlled, but they are inside the cab. You would need to pull the carpet back in order to access the little recessed area where the cage nuts are. But I have taken all 8 of my bolts out. The ones in the very back, at the very back of your cab, those were the easiest to get out. None of them were easy, but those were the easiest. That one and the one here in the middle, when it breaks loose, you probably need to be wearing some gloves, because those were, when I say in there tight, they were in there tight. When it finally did break loose, just the shock of it, tore the end of my finger open. So those things are in there so tight. The Loctite and all that's got them. It's really got them in there good. So that's the easiest one. Definitely be wearing gloves when you tackle that one. This one here actually wasn't so bad. When you start loosening it, it starts popping because the threads are so dry. So yeah, definitely spray a little something on those. And all I gotta say about these, is get creative and good luck. And if it spins on you, take your headlight out and start tackling it in there. Don't even worry about the ears. Get them out of the way and get you a 7/8 wrench on that to hold it, so that then you can spin it from the bottom. So now the bushings themselves. See this space in here between this and this mount right here? See, there's nothing in there. Okay, there's supposed to be a bushing in there. And you see the top one, see how crusty? That's the top one. Bottom one's completely gone. Let's see about this one. Still got the bottom one. Top one's there, crusty. About half of these, the bottom's completely gone, and there is some of the top left. Occasionally, you'll see one where there's no top left, there is no bottom left. And it just, that's not good, because now your body and the frame can move. The body can move independent of the frame. And like I said, the radiator doesn't deal well with that type of racking movement. So it's time to replace them. Let me show you what a new one looks like. Okay, let me show you what a new one looks like. This is a new top. It goes between the body and the bracket. And you'll see how much of the new one's there and how much of the old one is not there. This is the bottom piece. Goes up from the bottom. There should be all of this where there's nothing. And the two fit. This male part fits into the female part, and that's what it's supposed to look like, with that body mount bracket from the frame being between the two. So that's a new one. Let me get the side of the body jacked up. Now, I did take all of the bolts out. And you say, well, you should have left some in. Now your body's going to move. No, it's not going to move. I'm going to jack this side of the body up just enough to get that out, that top piece out, and to get this one slid in. Don't jack it up any more than that. There's stuff you'll break that's, attached and whatnot. So, gonna get a jack with a couple of boards and place it strategically under a part on this side of the body, and we'll lift that up so we can get that out. Okay, if we got the old one out, gonna just wipe that off a little bit, maybe put some carb clean on a rag, clean it off. It faulted me because the bottom part, the male, was stuck, and no amount of prying would get it out. Even put a torch on it, heated it. She wasn't coming loose, so got the old Sawzall with a nice long bimetal cutting blade. Took about 20 seconds and she was out. So, you know, be prepared. Have all this stuff waiting on you, standing by, because you are going to need it. I'm hoping the other 3, you know, or the other 6 in the back here, I'm hoping they're not quite that stuck. I mean, not that it was a big deal to solve them, but this one was easy to get to because, you know, we got all the room here. But the others, well, that one, if we had to saw, wouldn't be so bad because it's right here too. But I don't want to be going around sawing them all, so I'm hoping the others will come out a little easier. But anywho, we'll continue on, and I'll get you back in here. So got the top part in. Wanted to talk just a second about your options when it comes to buying your new bushings, and there's a few options out there. I took the option of OEM Ford parts. All of these are Ford parts. Yes, same design as the ones that, you know, deleted themselves on me. But I opted for this route for my own reasons. You've got the polyurethane or Kevlar or ever what they're calling it now, that you can put in here. They are kind of hard. I've used them on another vehicle, and they're not as cushiony as the originals. The polyurethane are you know, going to give you a rougher ride, not as good of a ride quality. Then you have the Ford OEM, which is what I went with, and because they are going to fit, if you'll notice, you know, there's 2 flat sides to that. It's not round, and same goes with the hole in the bracket here. So they're going to fit. They're meant to fit, made to fit as intended. Wouldn't go with the polyurethane. The only other option you really got is the silicone body mount bushings, that they also come with, you know, the new metal pieces. Polyurethanes do not come with the new metal pieces, and you'll have to reuse your old ones. And that's one reason why you probably don't want to go with the polyurethane. The silicones come with all new metals. If I'm not mistaken, they may come with the bolts. I'm not sure. Anyway, they are more expensive than the Ford OEM, and the Ford OEM is not cheap. If you want the cheap route, get the polyurethanes. They will not fit the hole in the bracket. There's a lot of slop in that. It looks cheap, and I didn't want to go that route. I also didn't want to, you know, spend half my retirement on the silicone one. So went with the OEMs. Be reusing my bolts, but I'm definitely going to give them the old wire wheel treatment, get them nice and cleaned up before we put a new thread locker on them, and then we'll put them in, torque them to 80 foot-pounds. So I'm going to keep on going. Take my crowbar and try to pop these bottoms off, put new stuff in there. Then I'll let this side down, and I'll get my bolts started. I won't tighten them, and I won't torque them. I'll move around to the driver's side, jack the body up, repeat the process. And I'm not going to bore you with all that, but just wanted to show you mainly how I tackle the 2 in the front, which are going to give you problems. and chances are you're going to have to get the saws all out and saw them in half, which, you know, you stick your blade in here and you just go all the way across. That's easy. It wasn't difficult at all. Your biggest challenge on this whole thing is going to be breaking the bolts loose. And, you know, I had not been looking forward to this project simply because of that. And the two in the front did prove to be a challenge, but hopefully what I've shown you will help. Maybe you get something out of this. The rest of these is just going to be a repetitive process. If I can't prime a part, I'll saw them, put the new ones in. Once I get all these in, I'll let the body back down, get my bolt started. Will not tighten or torque them, then I'll move to the other side. Once I get all the bolts in, torque everything to 80 foot-pounds, and then she'll be done. I'll go ahead and put my inner wheel well splash guard fender back, put the tire back on, we'll be good to go. I've got some other stuff that's a little different than what we've been doing, and you'll get to see that in the next video. But if you don't mind, please subscribe. Give me a thumbs up if you like the video. Glad you joined me. Have a good day, be safe, and God bless.